Hello and welcome. This is Corey from the Bach Scholar YouTube channel. I made a video a couple weeks ago entitled The Most Useful Piano Books for Students and Teachers, or Teachers and Students, I forget which order that is. And it was a very successful video, or still is. It's actually becoming one of my top viewed videos. And I really thank you for viewing that, and I hope that it brought you some good ideas as a piano student or teacher on which books to use, which books that I believe are the most useful. This particular video is something a little bit different. I decided it's about time that pianists, students and teachers learn about the different types of editions. Now, if you're a teacher, a experienced piano teacher and have been to university, you probably will know a lot of this already. But I don't think this is common knowledge among piano students. And it's been bothering me for a very long time, because when I suggest editions, like for my students to buy whatever edition, Schirmer or Alfred or Henley or whatever it may be, there's a reason for that. I actually have a timer on. I'm going to try not to go over 30 minutes or something for this video. I have it planned in my mind, but I don't have, I improvise my videos, okay? So I have a timer on. I'm going to shoot for 30 minutes, so please excuse me if I'm talking fast or if I don't explain everything in detail. First, before I go on, I just want to remind you that my wife Marilyn and I are compiling a waiting list for summer piano lessons. Please fill this form out if you're interested in starting in the summer. You can also continue in the fall. So this is not only in the summer. Links are below this video. Also, I want to bring to your attention the Well-Rounded Pianist. It's an excellent site. My own site, I upload new material every week there for piano teachers and students to learn. As I speak, there are over 2,700 videos on there. And I'm really proud of the Well-Rounded Pianist. It's an excellent site, one of the best in the world, actually, in my opinion. I've gotten rave reviews, so you can go over and join the Well-Rounded Pianist if you'd like to learn from me on, on a video basis. So, okay, anyway, let's get to the topic on hand, music editions. So I went to our library, and also my wife and I are fortunate enough to have a big library of music. In fact, I should do a video on that also. We have a big library of music books, piano books, associated with the Music Teachers National Association, MTNA. So we have all these books that don't necessarily belong to me or my wife, and it's allowed me to go in there and pull out some nice books that I can talk about. So we're sort of the librarians for our branch of the MTNA. All right, we'll finally get to the topic on hand. I have a little cheat sheet here on what types of editions there are. If you want to do your own research and are interested in this, I would highly recommend just going to Google and put in types of musical editions, and see what you can find on there. So basically, I'm summarizing what I found on Google, which most of that I knew already, but I was trying to compile this list on types of musical editions. Now, when we talk about types of musical editions, we're not talking company brands. So we're not when I say a type of musical edition, I'm not talking specifically about Schirmer or about Dover or whatever company may publish the music. So we're not talking about companies, we're talking about types of editions. And you need to know, as an educated teacher or student, you need to know this. This is very important information, and this is why. If you ever go car shopping for a car, do you just go to a dealership, buy the car, and bring it home? No, you don't. You do a little research. Then you narrow it down to whatever model in that make of car is good for you. This is the same thing with musical editions. Now, if somebody tells you, if you're a piano student and a teacher tells you, oh, go buy the Bach inventions, the two-part inventions, that's not a very good recommendation. That's just like saying, go out and buy a car. Go out and buy, okay, I'll just buy a car. Any random car. I get it home, maybe I don't like it. I don't like the car. It's not a car for me. It's not a car for my wife. So you can't just go and buy Bach inventions. You have to know what type of edition you want of the Bach inventions. And there are many different types. And here they are. There are scholarly editions. Scholarly editions are, and I'm reading from here, commercially published editions edited by an important scholar or performer who is an expert in the study or interpretation of a composer's music. Scholarly editions, okay? So scholarly editions are different from performing or performance editions. So performing or performance editions are editions that are, of course, published for the sole purpose of being performed. So you can probably guess that performance editions are going to have usually more extra indications in there, not just fingerings, but performance editions are going to have lines like phrase lines, staccato marks, things of that nature that the composer didn't necessarily indicate in the score. So, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that performance editions are for people who want performance or performing editions. And a good example of that is Schirmer. I happen to like Schirmer a lot for certain types of composers and certain styles. So the Schirmer Clementi Sonatinas is a perfect example. I think it's a fine edition. It's a fine performance edition. There are extra marks in here that aren't indicated by the original, that Clementi didn't really write in here. There are fingerings, certain phrase marks, staccatos, but I think that Schirmer does it in very good taste. Very good taste. It's not excessive. It's not an excessive type of editing, but it's simply just good editing that's not done to extremes. Where on the other hand, some other performance editions like Alfred, and I know I talked bad about Alfred in my last video, and I'll talk bad about them again here, because if you get an edition like this, the Inventions and Symphonias by Alfred, it is what you would think to be a performance edition. Okay, they have a lot of suggestions by the editor. They have gray lines, which they put here, which are suggestions from the editor that Bach didn't indicate. There are footnotes here to give the performers some ideas. There are instructions on how to play the ornaments and all sorts of nice things in there, which most people would think are nice. Here's the problem, though. The problem that I've had with Alfred editions like this, and this doesn't apply to all Alfred editions, but his Inventions and Symphonias here, for example, perfect example of an edition I just cannot stand. The reason I cannot stand this type of edition is because they're trying to do everything. Alfred, they try to be a scholarly edition, they try to be a critical edition, they try to be a performance edition, they try to be an urtext, they try to be everything, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you try to spread yourself so thin over these types of editions. That's the problem. They're trying to do too much in one edition. It's too much information. It's too much to look at. They explain ornaments, but then they give an ornament table in the beginning, so why they're redundant. And not only that, but the ornaments that they do explain how to play, most of them are incorrect. Not to mention the page turns. All of the two-part inventions of Bach can fit on 2 pages, and they should. No, what does Alfred do? They stretch it out to 3 or 4 pages with footnotes that nobody reads, stupid gray lines all over the place. So this is my main reason why I take issue with Alfred editions, because they try to do too much and spread themselves too thin over too many different types of editions. So just keep it at one of these. Keep it at just a performance edition with the, not too many markings in there, or a scholarly edition in which this would be a good scholarly edition because they have footnotes and they explain different manuscripts and things like that. Another good example of a performance edition I cannot stand is Schirmer, and here's Schirmer I do not like, Schirmer Mozart sonatas. Okay, Schirmer Mozart sonatas. You open this up and it's just littered with lines and staccato marks and crescendos and decrescendos and expression here and expression there. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that I have had piano students in the past, many, who have had this book and then they play from it. And then I'll suggest, well, don't do a staccato there. Mozart didn't really write that staccato. I think it's better not to do it staccato there. That's just the opinion of the editor who edited this. And they usually don't understand because many piano students, lesser advanced students, and it's totally understandable. They don't know about editions. So piano students will buy books thinking, oh, everything in a book is perfect. Everything in a book is what the composer wanted. And they'll buy the bargain Mozart 19 sonatas for piano of Schirmer for really cheap. They'll get it because it's cheap. And then they'll open it up and they'll think they have to do everything in here. They have to do all the dynamics, all the staccatos, all the legatos, all the markings in here, the tempo mark and everything that's marked. You don't have to do that. So if you happen to have, like say the Mozart Schirmer edition of the sonatas, the first thing you need to do is simply ignore all the expressive marks, all the slurs, almost all the staccatos, the tempo mark, and everything else. So I would just suggest, instead of buying an edition that's too heavily edited, especially Mozart and Bach, they tend to over edit the earlier music. Later music, it's okay because they were closer to the composer. Because like Schirmer editions by Chopin, for instance, Chopin Schirmer editions are excellent because they were edited by people like Josephi and people like that who actually were living during Chopin's time. They knew how Chopin played, or even knew him, or were a disciple of Chopin and knew how he played. And so the editorial marks in the Schirmer Chopin editions are actually in quite good taste. And I actually like them a lot. I think the Chopin Schirmer editions are among the best editions to buy for Chopin. Whereas if you buy an Urtext is a book of music that does not have editorial markings in them. So if you open an Urtext, this is an Urtext of Bach's 6 partitas. You just open this up and it's a nice clean score. I don't even think they give fingerings in here. Yeah, a nice clean score without fingerings. Urtext editions also may have fingerings. So an Urtext edition, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I have scholarly editions, critical editions. Basically, scholarly editions and critical editions usually are about the same. They're sort of interchangeable. Performing or performance editions. And then I found another source that says there's 4 types of music editions. There's Faximile, Urtext, performance, and critical. So you'll find different information depending on where you look. But if you put it all together, basically in a nutshell, you have all these different types of editions. They're like different types of cars, different styles. There's sports cars, there's muscle cars, there's family vehicles, there's SUVs, there's luxury cars. So if you take cars, there's probably a dozen different types of cars, and that's what they are. So once again, I'm going to go back to my original statement that if somebody told you go and buy a car, what do you get? Do you get a sports car? Do you get a family car? Do you get a luxury car? You don't know what you want. So if a piano teacher tells you, go buy the Bach two-part inventions, it's in a way that's an irresponsible thing to say to a student, because they don't know what to do. So what they do is they go to Amazon and they just buy the cheapest thing they can find of Bach inventions. And usually it's something like one of these Schirmer editions of Bach, like edited by Czerny, which is a joke. This is an absolute joke. You open one of these things up and it's just littered with phrase marks, tempos, crescendos, dynamics. So if you ignore all that and just play the notes, it's fine. He has some good fingerings in here, I have to admit. So the Czerny edition might be good to get some ideas about fingerings. That's pretty good. I don't have any complaints about that, but I do have complaints that it's just overly edited for Bach. If you want better Bach, I would suggest buying an Urtext edition of Bach. Urtext editions are like Bärenreiter, which is a very fine Urtext edition. There are, what else here? Oh, we have the Henley edition. Henley editions are probably the most popular Urtexts among professionals. And Henley are great editions, very heavy duty. They very fine manuscript, easy to read. They're not heavily edited. This particular edition here, this is of the French suites. It has fingerings. So if you're interested if you want fingerings, it does have fingerings, but it's a good clean score and it's not edited heavily. There's no staccatos or phrase marks or dynamics or tempos marked in that Bach did not indicate. So that's why I highly suggest Urtext editions, even for beginners. So beginners might think, oh, well, I have to have a lot of instruction on this. I don't know anything about how to play the ornaments or the editions. So then they'll go buy they'll buy the Alfred edition of the Inventions. Well, good luck, because like I said before, this is a crappy, probably the worst edition I've ever seen. It's just, they try to do too much. Yeah, it's just too much information that doesn't help. Doesn't help at all. This is like trying to cram, this is like making a car and making a sports car, a luxury car, a family car, and a race car, and a whatever else kind of car, all in the same kind of car. It does not work. This is why I cannot stand this edition. I think it's just off. It's terrible, terrible. So you need to be educated on the types of editions you want. So we have Urtext edition. Oh, another good type of Urtext edition here is Peters editions. I love Peters editions. In fact, if I had to choose one publishing company that publishes what I believe to be the best editions, just out of all categories, I would rate Peters the highest edition of all, edition Peters. Excellent edition. They're very consistent. Peters has, in my opinion, the absolute best manuscript, even better than Henley, believe it or not. I think Peters in general is better than Henley for manuscripts. They hire good scholars to put fingerings. In fact, this one here, this Liszt Etudes, is edited by Emil von Sauer, who was a student of Liszt. So he has really good fingerings in here. It's absolutely excellent manuscript, some of the best manuscript I've ever seen. And I think that Peters, in my opinion, is my sort of go-to Urtext edition when I can find them. That's what I use for Bach's Inventions, Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier. I have Peters editions for that. I highly recommend Peters. I hardly have anything bad to say about Peters editions. So if it comes to editions, Peters, great editions for almost all styles too. So we have Peters, I'm talking about Urtext here, Henley, Peters. Here's another Peters edition of the Well-Tempered Clavier Book 1. Beautiful, beautiful engraving here, beautiful manuscript. Good, really good edition of that. Also, fine Urtext editions are the Wiener Urtext. Sometimes they're called the Wiener Urtext, and sometimes they're just called just an Urtext edition. This particular one, the red one, is by Schott. Generally, I like Schott. Generally, not quite as much as the other editions like Peters and Henley, but Schott does publish some very fine, or the Wiener Urtexts are very nice, very fine. Bärenreiter, which I mentioned before, that's a very fine Urtext edition. In fact, in my earlier days, I lived in Germany for 3 years where I taught piano. So actually my first piano teaching job after I attained my master's degree was teaching piano in Germany, and I did that for 3 years. I actually lived almost next door to Bärenreiter. I just lived to the little village, to the north of Kassel, where Bärenreiter is. Now, I used to actually give a piano lesson right next door to where Bärenreiter made their editions. In fact, I bought some things from the Bärenreiter store. I like Bärenreiter a lot. They're a great edition. Bärenreiter, great editions, Urtext editions, Wiener Urtext, Schott, Peters editions, Henley editions. They're all very fine Urtext editions, which offer clean scores. For the most part, pretty good fingerings if they have fingerings, and nothing that the composer wrote is added. So they're good, clean scores to work with, and then you don't have to deal with all this too much information like in this Inventions and Symphonias of Alfred. Also, another thing, I might want to just throw this in here. I've known this for a long time now. Henley editions. Henley editions they're revered by professional pianists. Everyone, if you ask your great pianist, if you ask Andras Schiff, or if you ask any great pianist or any great famous teacher what edition to get, 95% of the time they'll say, oh, get Henley, it's the best. Okay, yes, I agree with that to a certain extent, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, because Henley editions, for the most part, have terrible fingerings. Terrible. They don't hire very knowledgeable people to do their fingerings. They just don't. Henley, in my opinion, has some of the worst fingerings for some of the finest editions. So I think that if Henley wanted to improve their editions, they might want to hire people who really know how to put fingerings on there. They're not very good fingerings in general. So my main complaint with Henley, as great as they are, the fingerings absolutely suck. Some are okay, but in general, they're not very good. So if you get Henley editions, don't be surprised if you run across some crazy fingerings, because they hire these German professors who are in their ivory tower, and they maybe haven't played piano for 20 years, and they finger things just academically, and they're not really performers. So that's my experience with Henley with fingerings. All right, so other types of editions here. We have facsimile editions. Facsimile editions, I don't have any here, but if you go to IMSLP and look around there, usually if you go to something, they'll usually have, if there is a facsimile, they'll have it at the very beginning. And facsimile editions are actual copies of the actual manuscripts. Like, I used to have a facsimile of Bach's Goldberg Variations. I don't know what happened to it. I think it got lost. But it was beautiful. It was actually Bach's own manuscript, or like the first edition or something like that. And so facsimiles are more for historians who kind of want to see the real early edition. I am currently preparing Clementi's Sonatinas, my own edition of Clementi's Sonatinas. And what I do when I prepare my own editions, like for example, my own edition of Schumann's Kinderszenen, the scenes from childhood, This is what I would consider a performance edition. I actually say performance edition on here. So it's not an Urtext. I don't pretend that everything in here is exactly the way Schumann did it. So what I did, and I'm really proud of this edition. It's an excellent edition. I think the best edition available of Schumann's Scenes from Childhood. The reason is that being a pianist and having taught and played these for a very long time, there are many awkward places in here, as you may know, where Schumann has finger crossings and things like, I think like in number 8, but virtually the whole piece is just like your thumbs are crossing. So what I've done in my performance edition is I've uncrossed the fingers. So I've rewritten it. I'm not taking notes away, I'm not adding notes, but I'm just printing them different on the page to make it easier for the performers to play. So you don't have to deal with this, having the bottom note of the right hand being lower than the top note of the left hand. That's really, really annoying, in my opinion. It's really annoying, and it's hard to read, and it's confusing. So all you have to do is just uncross them. And so I've done that with every place I could find where Schumann had awkward things going on in here. I've rewritten it. That's why I believe my performance edition is the best, because too many editions just they reproduce what Schumann wrote. They don't question anything, and they leave it that way, and it's difficult. Schumann had some crazy ideas. Schumann was a crazy person, and he wrote awkward things that are awkward to play that could be notated much easier. So my notation is better than most other editions in the Schumann. I'm preparing a performance edition of the Clementi 6 sonatinas. How do I do that? Well, my sources are the first edition, and actually there are, I believe, 2 first editions from around 1799. Just go to IMSLP, put in Clementi sonatinas, and it'll be probably one of the first ones on there. So I work with the first edition. I work with an Urtext like Henley to see how Henley did it, and then I also work with performance edition. So when I'm preparing my own editions, what I do is I look at maybe 2 or 3 different types of editions, and I make my own edition based on my own knowledge of what I see. So it's not, I'm not pretending to be an Urtext. It's not too overly edited like Czerny's performance editions, but I try to achieve a happy medium when I make my editions like this. Well, I'm at 30 minutes, but I'm going to have to go over 30 minutes, sorry. So we have facsimile editions, Urtext, performance, okay, critical, autograph or holograph editions too. Those are sort of like facsimiles. An autograph or holograph edition, or it's usually called either or, one of those, is the composer's own manuscript written by them. I couldn't find it on IMSLP anymore, but there used to be both the Goldberg variations and the 6 partitas used to have Bach's own autograph or holograph editions. I can't find them anymore. I don't know. They put them somewhere else. So anyway, those are good to have, good to refer to if you want to refer to see what they actually wrote. And this is good for research because I was recently investigating some rhythm problems in Schubert. And I didn't want to rely on my printed editions, like even Henley, which has great Schubert editions, but I wanted to go to the very first source, the source that Henley used to make their editions. All you have to do is go to IMSLP and look up what you're looking up, and usually they'll have the autograph edition right in there, or the first edition. So if you're a scholar, if you want to research a note or a rhythm or something like that, and you don't know whether it's right in whatever edition you're using, simply go to IMSLP and look for either a first edition or an autograph edition or an early edition of some sort that that gets closer to the source. So the closer you are to the source, usually the better or more accurate it is. But it's not always accurate, because as I'm preparing my Clementi Sonatina edition, I discovered that there's actually mistakes in the first edition. So you have to, you know, use your brain a little bit. You can't just believe everything that's written out. So yes, first editions can have mistakes in them, even though they're closer to the source. But you as a pianist and a scholar, you have to figure these things out and weigh them out and see which one, what you want to do with it. So we have autographs or holographs, copies of editions. Those are usually, if those exist, those will be in IMSLP as well. Those copies are handwritten copies of a manuscript copied by a relative, student, or colleague of the composer. So for example, the reason why Bach has so many different types of variants, sometimes you'll see especially like in the miscellaneous Bach preludes, you'll read it from some edition, say Henley, and then you'll get another edition and you'll see a slightly different note there, or you'll see a staccato mark or something that wasn't in the other edition you looked at. The reason why and Chopin has a lot of this too. If you look at Chopin editions from various companies, they're often different in notes in places. The reason for this is because of the copies. Because Chopin wrote his copy, then he would have maybe a student or two do their own copies, and they were slightly different. The same with Bach. Maybe Bach would have his manuscript, and then he would have two of his students do copies. Well, one student would do one copy, and he would add a trill here and add a trill there. The other student would would write out a copy and not do an extra trill here and an extra trill there. He might put a trill somewhere else, or he might not add any trills. So that's why you see Bach's ornaments all over the place in various editions, like in the Alfred edition, who doesn't seem to quit adding ornaments on every single note. That's another reason why I don't like Alfred. It's just over ornamented. They take all the ornaments in every edition or every copy, and then they put it in here. So once again, too much information. So if you're an editor of music and you're making your own edition, you have to decide what you want. Don't over ornament, for one thing. Just stay away from over ornamenting. It seems like on every other note there's an ornament, and Bach didn't even write it in his original. So those are just copies done from students or friends of the composer. First edition, of course, early editions I talked a little about. Study scores, really, really important type of edition. I have a good study score here of the Bach 4-part chorales. This is out of print, so you won't be able to get this anymore, I don't think, unless you get it on eBay somewhere. This is excellent. This is the best study score of Bach's 4-part chorales that I know. I didn't even know I had this until I discovered I had it in my library. I think I used it in grad school sometime. Anyway, this is what I used. This right here mainly is what I used for the main source for my editions of Bach's 436 4-part chorales. So if you have this, which is great for sight reading and learning, if you have my 436 4-part chorale book, this was the main source that I used to compile my chorales here, was this chorales harmonized by Johann Sebastian Bach. This was collected and arranged in melodic order by H. Elliott Button. So that's what I used for that. I also used a couple other editions of Bach's chorales to help me with my edition. What else do we have? We have, oh yeah, Dover editions. Okay, Dover. Everyone loves Dover because they're so cheap in price. They're very cheap in price. And for the most part, I would say Dover is pretty good editions. But here's the thing about Dover, and a lot of people don't know this. I'll define this. Okay, I have 3 Dover editions here. So a lot of people don't know this. If you're a longtime teacher, you probably know already that. So Dover is all copies. Dover did not hire people to actually do engravings and things. So they actually just stole, legally stole, because they're in the public. The music they borrow, the editions they borrow from are all in the public domain, and it's perfectly legal to do that. They don't even need permission. So for example, the Claude Debussy Etude, Children's Corner, Image, Book 2, and all that from Dover is not really written by Dover. If you look in the first page, it says they'll always have this copyright thing here. The Dover edition, published in 1992, is a new collection of 10 works originally published separately. And then they indicate most of their manuscripts are actually just copies, facsimiles. They don't even copy it out. They just do it with a copy machine. They're facsimiles of the French Durand editions here. The Chopin, the Dover Chopin. This is simply, many of them actually come from the Paderewski edition, the Polish Paderewski edition. But this one here, they say that it was originally published by G. Schirmer. So Dover actually steals from Schirmer, legally stole from Schirmer, and simply just rehashed what Schirmer already had. So you can either buy Chopin Schirmer like this, or you can buy Schirmer Chopin, or you can buy Dover Chopin. This particular book here uses basically the same thing as this. So it's the same. They just have a Dover cover on there. So Dover has a really good business model. They basically just steal legally. Shouldn't say steal. They just take other previous editions in the public domain that have been around so long that it's you don't have to have permissions or anything. So they just take something that anyone can use it. You take it, you facsimile it, you put your own stamp on, you put your own logo on there, your own company name, and you have an edition. Anyone can do that. So Dover sort of shows the easy way out. They don't have to do anything at all. They don't have editors. They just sort of just copy from previous editions. Here's a Dover edition of Liszt, and I wanted to bring this to your 40 minutes. Can you believe that? Here's an edition of, to really talk about editions, you need like 3 hours. So sorry that this is going on so long. So this Liszt, Mephisto Waltz, and Other Works for Solo Piano by Dover. Once again, it's basically just a rehashing of, I think Peters. Yeah, Emil von Sauer. So basically what they've done here is they just take the Emil von Sauer edition, they take this, like what's in here, and then they facsimile it into here, and then put their own stamp on it. It's perfectly legal. I know I'm not talking bad about them or anything, I'm just saying that that's what they do. But the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention is that it's really important, but nobody ever thinks about this size. Do you see that? Okay, here is a standard book. Let's take this one. Let's take the Liszt Etudes of Peters, okay? If you take your standard music book, now, if you're in the music publishing business, you'll know this, but most people don't know this. Standard music books are, and I'm going to talk inches here because I'm American, 12 inches by 9 inches. 9 by 12. That's the standard size of music books. So if you take any music book, any standard music book, they're going to be basically 9 inches by 12 inches. Now, what they've done here is they've cut corners. This is actually American letter size, 8.5 by 11. So 8.5 by 11. So they've cut 1 inch off the length and a half an inch off the length. It doesn't seem like very much, but it is, because they have to, what's in here has to be shrunk down to small enough to where it can fit on American letter size pages instead of 9 by 12. Personally, I can't stand books that are printed on American letter size, 8.5 by 11. Personally, I just don't like them. I try to avoid buying them if I can. So if you buy a book, don't just go out and just buy any book. Make sure it's 9 by 12. Make sure it's the standard size. Dover wanted to cut corners and save money, and in the process made this. I mean, otherwise it's a good book. The manuscript is good because it comes from Peters. It's otherwise good, but it doesn't stay open very well, and it's too small. It's just too small. It needs to be 9 by 12. So that's a real gripe of mine, is music companies that print 8.5 by 11 books. They should not be 8.5 by 11 unless they're study scores. Okay, so this Bach Chorale book here I have, this is a study score. It's a scholarly edition, which is a study score. It's of course it's going to be small, because this is for scholars, like people like me, who just want great scholarly stuff and don't want any editorial marks anywhere. I know everything is small here when I buy it, but if you buy normal piano music, and try to stay away from 8.5 by 11s like Dover here, they cut corners on that. So what do we have? Well, in a nutshell, that's editions. And I feel like this 45 minutes here seemed like a whirlwind, seemed like 10 minutes, because I wanted to get as much information as I could in this video. I'm sorry if I just, kind of was disorganized a little bit, but I hope that this gives you some food for thought, and I hope that this opens your eyes a little bit about editions of music. All editions are different. They're all different. They all serve different purposes. Some are easier to read, some are harder to read, some do this, some do that. It's the car analogy. You can't have a family, a sport car, a luxury vehicle. You can't have that all in the same car. You have to buy a different car for each of those purposes. So I think that's the best analogy to use. So if you're a piano student and you need to buy, like, let's say, the Bach two-part Inventions, do your research, figure out what type of edition you want. If you want lots of editorial markings, like in the Alfred Inventions and Symphonias, fine. If you like that, if you want all those footnotes that nobody ever reads, by the way, if you want all those footnotes, if you want all that, then fine, get it, that's fine. My wife loves Alfred editions. She has a whole library of Alfred editions. I happen to not like them very much, although there are some good ones. I may as well show you a pretty nice one. Is I like J.S. Bach, An Introduction to His Keyboard Music, edited by Maurice Hinson. That's pretty good. That's not too bad. Generally, the ones Alfred editions edited by Maurice Hinson are generally good. They're less edited. They're not as highly edited like this one here. But I think those are some of the better Alfred editions. I also have some very nice video game music from Alfred. It's funny, I had a student in Norway at a time, and he was very nice to send me a Christmas present one year, and it was a Super Mario series, and this is Alfred. This is an Alfred edition. I love this edition. I mean, I don't play video games, but I've had students in the past who have worked on video game music, And I think this is really nice. Good manuscript, really nice, just fascinating, you know, nice pictures on the front, heavy duty book. So I do like, I don't want to talk too bad about Alfred all the time, but they do have some very nice additions. Like they really put a lot of work and thought into the Super Mario series here. I have another one, another video game book here of edited or by Alfred, which is a very fine one if you're into that type of music. I don't want to talk bad about any particular edition, but those are my thoughts with all the types of editions there are. You need to decide what's right for you. And so the first thing you need to do is don't just go out and buy any random edition. Do a little research. Maybe look at a few sample pages. Ask yourself, is this what I like? Is this not what I like? Do I want something that's more edited or less edited? Is the manuscript easy to read? You know, like Henley has great manuscripts, you know, or you know, some editions just don't have very legible manuscripts. And that's one thing I pride myself in my own Box Scholar editions, is I really try to make it legible, and I think that's what I strive for in my own editions, is legibility and a very clear text. I'm not pretending to be an urtext, so I do manipulate things, but I do it in good taste for performers. All right, so 49 minutes. Can you believe that? Thank you for joining me in this video. I hope you got something out of it, and stay tuned for more videos like this in the future.